Hi and welcome. My name is Suzanne Hume. I'm the Educational Director and founder of CleanEarthForKids.org. I'd like to welcome you to tonight's panel discussion. Our fantastic youth board, college interns, and Mrs. Jamie Washington are joining us. So excited for tonight. I'd like to start by introducing Janice.
Hi everyone, I'm Janice, and I'm on the Cleaner for Kids Youth Board. I lead Team 4, #Water is Life, protecting our drinking water, oceans, rivers, wetlands, and streams. At Cleaner for Kids, we have 6 teams. Team 1 is Climate Action Plans and Renewable Energy Goals. Team 4 is protecting plants, trees, public lands, parks, forests, wildlife, and gardens. Team 3 is protecting air. Team 4 is protecting water. Team 5 is stopping pesticides, toxic chemicals, and synthetic turf. Team 6 is zero waste and reducing the use of single-use plastic. Social and environmental justice are a part of each of our 6 teams. Later tonight, our Social Justice Commissioner, Jamie Washington, will be sharing her knowledge with us. For community service, we offer various types. If you are a student watching this, you can earn community service by writing 2 pages of notes based on this webinar with a short summary of what you learned. You can also design and work on projects or apply to do an internship with us. For more information, go to CleanEarthForKids.org. At Clean Earth for Kids, we also have many K-12 contests and challenges you can learn about on our website. Tatiana, Chelsea, Judith, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Tatiana and I am leading a dance/performance art contest to bring awareness of the need of environmental protection.
Hi everyone, my name is Chelsea and I am leading a art and writing contest. It is called These Are the Hands That ... and I will be sharing more about it later on.
Hello, I'm Judith and I will show you the no idling signs I created to remind people to turn off their engines when they are parked. This would reduce air pollution and greenhouse gases. And later, I will show an example of how we can participate in our Call It Out challenge by making a video to call out pollution of our air, water, and our public lands. You can also call out rollbacks that are needed as an environmental protection. We need to use our voices to call it out.
The title of tonight's panel discussion is Stop Pesticides at Schools, Parks, Public Lands. Darren will be sharing trackingcalifornia.org, a pollution detecting tool that you can use from your computer or phone. She will also show maps. We will also discuss clean air and water and ways you can get involved. Please check our website, cleanerforkids.org, for information, resources, curriculums, and petitions. And please follow us on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. Darren, would you like to get us started?
Yes, thank you for the introduction, Janice. Tonight, per the title, we'll be talking about pesticides and how they're affecting our communities and the planet. Pesticides can infiltrate our air and contaminate our water, and through exposure, harm human health, particularly children. So if you want to learn a little bit more about how pesticides affect our environment and ourselves, please visit cleanerforkids.org and specifically the Team 5 tab. We also have a lot of action items for you tonight, so although some of these topics that we'll be discussing seem a little bit depressing, there are a lot of things you can do and a lot of ways you can support initiatives that people are taking to reverse a lot of these issues. So the first issue that I want to talk about is chlorpyrifos. So recently the Trump administration reversed a proposed ban on chlorpyrifos as part of one of the 100 rollbacks on environmental legislation. After that, California, New York, and Hawaii quickly moved to ban this pesticide. This is good news. However, 47 of our states still have chlorpyrifos in use in our plants and our fields being inhaled by our farm workers. So it's still a problem even though it's not affecting our community directly. One bill that is proposed by California Congressman Mike Levin is HR 230, which would ban chlorpyrifos, which is in Roundup from the United States. Recently, Thailand added chlorpyrifos to their Type 4 list on the Hazardous Substances Act, which bans the pesticide from being used in their country and also bans it from export and import. So they are not going to buy our crops and Brazilian crops that are treated with chlorpyrifos. The U.S. exported $593 million of soybean crops and $180 million worth of wheat to Thailand in 2018. So this will result in significant financial loss to the United States unless we're taking action. And not only would this help support us financially, it would also help our children and help our environment. So following that, if you want to learn more about chlorpyrifos and what else is being used in your community, specifically in California, we have a new tool for you to use. This is found on a website called trackingcalifornia.org, and it's a very comprehensive tool. As you can see, there's a lot of places in California that are using pesticides, and if you go to options, you can see you can sort things by the year if you want to know exactly what year specific pesticides are being used and how much. You can also choose what geographical location you want and some of the categories of pesticides or individual pesticides as well, or pesticides being used on a specific crop. So there's a lot of different ways you can look at pesticides if you're curious about a specific thing. This is the way to go. Specifically in our community right now, there are a lot of different places in which we're using pesticides, which is awful, but I want to draw your attention to this particular square where over 50,000 some pounds of pesticides were used in 2017. And you can see they were using up to 88,000 pounds. So this is still a problem there. It's gone down, but it hasn't gone down enough. Ideally, there would be no pesticides being used, but as you can see, they're not really getting much better. And you can also look at the top 10 pesticides used in this square or whatever square you click on. And there are some categories. You can see there's a key on the bottom. So for example, the first one is a fumigant and a toxic air contaminant. So you can see right away how these pesticides are affecting our health and our environment. The second tool I would like to direct your attention to is by the OEHHA, or the Office of Environmental Health Hazards Assessment. So this is specifically agricultural pesticides used in an agricultural setting in California. And we've shown this before on some webinars, but looking at it again, Oceanside is pretty infamous for a lot of pesticides being used. You can see there's a lot of dark areas, which means that it's in the 90th to the 100th percentile of pesticides being used in agricultural instances according to the census that California has created. So this affects our communities. A lot of us live near these places. It affects our water and our air. So one way you can start to take action is just educating yourself. So I'd like to turn it over to Janice to talk about how water is being affected and more about water in general.
Thank you so much, Darren, for that important information. So I'd like to talk about protecting watersheds, wetlands, and streams from toxic runoff going into our water. A watershed is an area or ridge of land that separates water flowing to different rivers, basins, or seas. Here is a picture of a watershed. One watershed is located in Oceanside, California. On top of this watershed are agricultural lands that are using dangerous pesticides. We must protect our water from the terrible pesticides that are poisoning our water and our fish and causing red tide algae blooms. Leanna has done excellent presentations on red tide that are available on our website and YouTube.
Thank you, Janice. Agricultural pesticides in California are regulated by the DPR, the Department of Pesticide Regulation, but this does not mean that pesticides being used are safe for us to consume and for our plants and animals. Less than 1% of the 84,000 chemicals on the market in the US are tested for safety, according to the Center for Effective Government, which is a nonprofit based in Washington, D.C. Many pesticides are being used in the United States that are banned in many other countries. We have a list on our website that was compiled by Pesticide Action Network and Beyond Pesticides, among many other important organizations. So we're thankful to them for doing this work for us and for compiling this information for us to look at this conveniently. One example of a pesticide that's being used that has been banned in a lot of countries, but is still being used today and is contaminating our compost, contaminating our mulch, contaminating our lawns, is chlorpyrifos. We use 1.6 million pounds of it each year, which endangers the health of people. It's been proven to cause severe irritation to your eyes, your mouth, and your skin. Animals, there have been reproductive and birth defects such as skeletal abnormalities. There have also been damage to livers and kidneys and have caused weight loss in various species. And they can also cause damage to sensitive plants at levels of 10 parts per billion. So even if the plant that you're treating benefits from this, it's still harming a lot of plants around it, especially because it's considered volatile, which means it can evaporate from foliage and soil and make its way onto non-target plants, possibly causing harm. So in the United States, we're not using the precautionary principle that is used in Europe. This essentially means that if something has the potential for harm and we don't know for sure, it's best to not introduce it to the market than just introduce it and see how it goes and wait until it causes someone cancer or another serious disease before we take it off the market. So that's what we do in the United States. We use the opposite of the precautionary principle. And so this is applied to a lot of the pesticides, and that is the reason why so many of the pesticides that we have in the United States are banned in the UK and so many other countries across the world and in Europe, just because a lot of these countries use a smarter way of approaching pesticides and human health. A condensed version of our panel discussion from last week is now on YouTube. Cadence did an outstanding presentation showing us how toxic pesticides are being used less than a fourth of a mile from a neighborhood, a school, and our water in Vista. And you can learn a little bit more about what's being done in Governor Newsom's order, which talks about the dangers of toxic pesticides and pesticide exposure, particularly in relation to the pandemic, and calls for strict enforcement of regulations that reduce the amount of toxins in our schools. We are asking you to stand with us as we fight to end the use of toxic pesticides in this country and the world. California is known for having protective environmental laws, but California and other states are failing our children and future generations by allowing these pesticides to be continued to be used in our state. We must all work together to get the word out and make changes. Many farms are transitioning and using organics and other non-toxic methods. Please contact us if you'd like to help and encourage these steps and advocate for legislative change. Speaking of legislative change, we're grateful to Assemblymember Almar Suchi from the 66th District in California for his very important work. Again, there will be links to these petitions that I'll show on these slides in the chat later. But here are just a few of the things that he's done or proposed or has been involved in. So to start, AB 2071, which will hopefully prohibit the state from extending the operating time of the AES Redondo Beach power plant and forcing it to shut down. The plant used seawater to cool its systems down, which not only kills the marine organisms that enter the plant, but it warms the ocean, which causes algal blooms and wreaks havoc on marine ecosystems. 21,000 people live within a mile of the plant, so they're affected by the air and noise pollution. As Judith will talk about, we must stop burning fossil fuels, and this is just one contribution to it. Keeping it in operation would delay and potentially eradicate plans to open a park on site and initiate plans to restore surrounding coastal wetlands. So if we allow this to continue, we might not even see those changes that they were going to implement in the first place. So this is an important bill. The second thing that I'd like to talk about is AB 345, which would introduce a 2,500-foot health and safety buffer zone between oil and gas wells and sensitive land uses, which include schools, daycare centers, residential homes, and hospitals. Almost 5.5 million Californians live within a mile of these wells, putting them at risk for respiratory illnesses such as asthma, preterm births, and high-risk pregnancies and cancer. This bill, if passed, would protect these vulnerable populations from unnecessary harm. This is currently being considered by the Senate, so we're pretty close to getting this one passed, hopefully. So we would like your support to take action on this, just so that we can get this passed, hopefully sometime soon. Thirdly, there's AB 2762, which is the Toxic-Free Cosmetics Act, which clarifies that cosmetics containing certain known carcinogens, reproductive toxins, and endocrine disruptors that are harmful to human health may not be sold in California. There are over 15 chemicals and compounds that will be banned under this bill, including ones that you've probably heard of, like formaldehyde and mercury. And so there's two ways you can take action to this. Again, please refer to the chat. And finally, there's AB 468, which would promote safer schools and protect California school children from toxic exposure to Roundup, a known carcinogen, by eliminating its use on school grounds. Recently, this bill died in January of this year, but we need to garner support to reintroduce it and hopefully get these things rolling again. But there are no existing petitions at this moment, so please contact cleanerforkids.org for information on how to help, as with all of these issues that we're going to be talking about today. And you can read more about these bills on his website, from which a majority of this information was taken. So now I'd like to pass it back to James.
Thank you. On our homepage at cleanerforkids.org, we list the 100 rollbacks or cuts of protections. Sadly, the Trump administration has currently rolled back 66 protections for our air, waters, oceans, public lands, national parks, and wildlife. And there are still 34 rollbacks in progress, making the list of rollbacks up to 100. Our drinking water, wetlands, oceans, public lands, and national parks are all in trouble because of the Trump administration taking away our protections. As I said, a list of these 100 rollbacks of protections of our water and land created by the New York Times can be found on the homepage of our website, cleanerforkids.org. We also have Columbia and Harvard Law School keeping tracks of these cuts or rollbacks of protections. Organizations like Sierra Club, Earth Justice, Food and Water Watch, and many states are suing the Trump administration to protect our water, wetlands, streams, oceans, public lands, and our air. The health of our people and our future depends on clean, safe water, air, and land. Tatiana, could you please talk about our dance and performing arts contest?
Thank you, Janice. Hi, my name is Tatiana, and I am an artist, writer, and dancer with cleanearthforkids.org. I would like to invite you to participate in another contest, our Dance Performance Art Contest, to bring awareness. To enter the contest, you simply have to create an original dance to express a certain issue you are passionate about. But you can find recommended topics at our website. You may dance in a group or individually, but must give us your city, name, state, along with contact information. Also, make sure to include a title to your dance and its importance to you. Please send us your contest entry to cleanearthforkids.org. I will be posting my example and other contest entry examples on our website. Thank you.
Thank you, Tatiana. You can check out our dance contest under Contest on our homepage on cleanerforkids.org. Judith, could you please talk to us about the No Idling Sign contest?
Yes, anyone can enter our No Idling Sign contest and create no idling signs with children's art to remind drivers to turn off their engines when they are parked. This is especially important outside of schools when children are present. We must keep the air safe, decrease toxic car exhaust, and reduce air pollution, because 1 minute of idling has more carbon monoxide than 3 packs of cigarettes. K-12 contests are welcome to enter by emailing us a picture of the no idling signs you drew or made on your computer. Leanna, can you please share with us the no idling resolution and climate resolution?
Sure, Judith. Thank you so much. So, hi, everyone. I'm Leanna Cortez. I am a youth board member and Team 1 lead. Today, I'm talking to you a little bit about our no idling resolution, which was passed in Vista and Oceanside Unified School Districts. So one way you can help improve clean air is to pass a no idling resolution at your school district or in your city. So passing this resolution will allow your school district or city to install no idling signs. Well, idling to begin with is when you have a vehicle on, like a car, that's still on while waiting like at a curbside. Typically this happens at school districts when parents are waiting for their kids and all the car exhaust is still in the air and it's really, really toxic and it's really bad for your lungs. So we have free resources, including a no idling resource packet for schools, a no idling pledge, and materials translated into Spanish and hopefully more languages soon. We are always looking for translators, so if you are interested, please contact us at cleanforkids.org. We are also currently in the process of revising our resolutions to include components of social, racial, and environmental justice as they connect hand in hand with the many problems, solutions, and our 6 teams. So on this slide, I have a few examples of what we're trying to include. We also have climate resolutions. So an example of a climate resolution is right here with social and environmental justice that you can pass in your school district. This is important so we can work on all solutions as they are all interconnected, which we have talked about in past webinars. Shout out to Vista Unified and Ocean Unified School Districts and all of those working to reduce air pollution and greenhouse gases. We are excited to share our climate action plans as well for schools and district and our climate curriculum hopefully soon. I also want to just mention that next week we will host Hillary from Columbia Law School to discuss their climate deregulation tracker, which helps track all of the rollbacks of environmental protection that have happened under the Trump administration. As Denise mentioned, the Columbia University and Harvard University trackers show rollbacks of environmental protection are on the front page of our website, along with the New York Times article as well. So please visit cleanforkids.org under Team 1 for more info on all these resolutions, climate action plans, as well as the rollbacks, as we are constantly updating our website to have the most foremost news for you guys. So thank you.
Thank you, Leanna, for sharing all that information. So we are hoping more school districts pass no idling resolutions and post no idling signs in order to reduce air pollution. Air pollution is harmful for our lungs because these little tiny bits of pollution are called particulate matter, or PM. It gets trapped into our lungs. Air pollution can make people sick. It can make it difficult to breathe and cause diseases such as lung cancer, respiratory infections, and heart disease. According to World Health Organization, 2.4 million people die each year because of air pollution. Pollution comes from factories, power plants, and cars. Pollution is a social justice and an environmental justice issue. In fact, people of color are more likely to live near hazardous pollution, and this is not right. Did you know that 68% of African Americans live within 30 miles of a power plant? Coal plants release mercury, lead, sulfur dioxide, nitrogen dioxide, and carbon dioxide. This contributes to climate change and is also linked to asthma attacks, heart problems, and other diseases. When burning coal and oil, mercury, a highly powerful neurotoxin, a poison, is placed into our air. We must take action right now. Now I would like to show you an example of a call it out challenge that you can do when you see an environmental issue. You will start by saying your name and then you will talk about the issue. So I'll start. Hi, my name is Judith and I am calling out Andrew Wheeler, a former coal lobbyist who is now the head of the EPA, Environmental Protection Agency. The EPA is supposed to protect the health of every individual. Andrew Wheeler was appointed by President Trump. The EPA took away MATS, mercury and air toxic standards. Wheeler claimed that reducing power plants' toxic pollution is not worth the cost to industry, despite the thousands of lives that would be saved. Just like in the name, MATS protects our children and communities by limiting the emissions of mercury and other air toxics from power plants. In fact, mercury can actually affect the developing brains of children where exposure can lead to permanent neurological damage and loss of IQ. Because of this loss of protection, children who live near power plants will be exposed to mercury, arsenic, and other toxins. Mercury is a neurotoxin that hurts children's brains. This is so serious that 16 states and New York are filing a lawsuit to help keep MATS protections. I would like to personally thank these 16 states because we must have protections for our air, our water, and our public lands. We are asking the people of the United States of America and everyone across the world to join us and demand the EPA, run by coal lobbyist Andrew Wheeler, to restore the MATS protection today. We must have someone appointed to the EPA who will actually protect children's health, clean air, clean water in our public lands. So this is my example of a call it out challenge. Please stand with me, Clean Earth for Kids, and call it out. You can make a difference. We need to stop burning fossil fuels because they pollute or poison our air and our water. You can also help reduce air pollution by using less energy, like electricity or gas. You can turn off your TV or your computer when you're not using it, and driving less helps a lot too. You can carpool with friends and get some errands done so that you can get them all done in a single trip. This saves money on gas as well, which everyone likes. You can also support solar energy, wind energy, and water energy. Now I would like to bring it back to Janice again, who will talk about the Clean Water Rule.
Thank you, Judith. So the Clean Water Rule is a clarification of the Clean Water Act and defines which streams and wetlands are protected by this act. A narrow definition would leave many wetlands and streams vulnerable to pollution from sources like concentrated animal feeding operations, CAFOs, industrial faculties, and urban stormwater. It could constrain pollution prevention efforts by the Environmental Protection Agency, EPA, for rivers, streams, and lakes. The Army Corps of Engineers, which manages the permitting program for work affecting wetlands, could lose authority over a lot of wetlands, opening them up to development and sacrificing wetland flood control capabilities. The Clean Water Rule was created in 2015 by the Obama administration because there were too many possible loopholes in the Clean Water Act's protections. As you know, water pollution is still a serious problem in the United States, but our water quality has improved significantly over the past several decades, mostly because of the Clean Water Act's pollution control protections. The Clean Water Rule assures that the critical protections the Act provides will apply to many important streams, wetlands, and drinking water sources across the country. Now, however, the Trump administration is threatening to roll back the protections in the Clean Water Act by replacing WOTUS with a new regulation called the Navigable Waters Protection Rule. This rule was issued by the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency, or the EPA, and the Army Corps of Engineers in April 2020. The Navigable Waters Protection Rule is called by many as the Dirty Water Rule because it harmfully and illegally narrows the scope of the Clean Water Act by revoking federal protections for important streams, wetlands, and other waters. This new rule excludes millions of miles of rain-dependent streams and millions of acres of wetlands from critical safeguards of the Clean Water Act. This rule is the most severe weakening of the Clean Water Act's protections any administration has attempted since the Clean Water Act was passed in 1972. The Navigable Waters Protection Rule is sadly one of the many rollbacks or cuts to the protections the Trump administration is trying to push. I would now like to introduce Catherine, who will talk about an important petition affecting the tropical rainforest in Brazil.
Hi everyone, my name is Catherine. I am part of the Team 2, which aims to protect plants, trees, public lands, parks, forests, wildlife, and gardens. We are very excited about our grant from the California Air Resources Board. We will be planting trees in school districts, doing radio commercials about reducing pollution and greenhouse gases, as well as posting no idling signs with children's art that Judith has showed, and so much more. I would like to thank Sydney Pitcher, our friend and environmentalist, for emailing us a petition. We went ahead and posted it on our website. If any of you have a petition you would like to share, please feel free to email it to us at cleanearthforkids.org. The petition is called Stop the Destruction of Indigenous Lands and Protect Amazon Indigenous People. The Indigenous people of the Amazon are under great threat from COVID-19 and will get much worse with the fire season starting in July. Call for an immediate stop to mining, logging, oil activities, and industrial agriculture on Indigenous lands on their website that I'll post in the chat. Thank you to the nonprofit Amazon Watch for supporting Indigenous people and protecting the rainforest. I would now like to introduce our Social Justice Commissioner, Jamie Washington.
Well, good evening, everyone. I'm glad you're here. I have enjoyed the presentations. Today, I'm going to speak to you about part 2 of the DACA Supreme Court decision. And secondly, I'll talk to you about the abolitionist movement, in which they made it possible for at least 100,000 slaves to get to freedom. So I did a lot of reading about DACA, and just a quick review, it does mean deferred action for childhood arrivals. During the year 2012, the Obama administration created a program for the children of immigrants who were brought here by their parents. The document pretty much said that every 2 years they could apply and temporarily stay in America. Even though they were brought here by their parents and did not go through the proper channels for citizenship. It applied to roughly 650,000 children of immigrants who came here in 2007. Okay. In 2017, the Trump Department of Homeland Security disagreed and stated that DACA policy was unlawful and they wanted it to be rescinded. So organizations like the NAACP, the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People, disagreed and filed legal paperwork to push back and stop the rescission. So on June 18th, 2020, the US Supreme Court listened to everyone's arguments for and against the measure and decided to block the Trump administration to end DACA ASAP. The person that we need to focus on is Justice John Roberts, and I'd like you to see his picture. He is one of 9 judges, and he wrote the majority opinion. And our Supreme Court justices are comprised of 9 justices, and I would like you to take a moment just to look at these wonderful judges who decide on law, and all 50 states do need to comply once they decide on a law. But getting back to John Roberts, he wrote the majority opinion. It stated that the Trump administration failed to address important facts bearing on its decision to wind down the DACA program. It did not consider the hardships of just shutting down the program and how it affected the DACA recipients. After all, a lot of these students are either in college, they have enrolled in the military, they're serving our country, and they're currently working. They violated the federal law known as the Administrative Procedure Act. So Justice Roberts also left room for the Trump administration to kind of come up with a legal reason as to why DACA should be ended. And so they're going to go back to square one and come up with a reason to end the program. And they want the Supreme Court to reconsider ending it permanently. Well, the good news is our legislators can work on a deal so that people don't have to reapply every 2 years for a temporary stay in America. Those are called the Dreamers or the DACA recipients. We can work on them becoming permanent citizens. They came very close to a deal in 2019, but there was no agreement. So the current situation is, once we determine who our president is in the year 2020 in November, if it is Joe Biden plans on picking up legislation and getting a deal across the aisles so that DACA recipients can have permanent citizenship. Another piece of good news, about 3/4 of the US adults say they favor granting permanent legal status to immigrants who came here legally under the DACA program when they were children. The strongest support is coming from the Democrats and the Hispanics, according to the Pew Research Center. The study was recently conducted from June 4th through 10th in 2020. So that's a piece of good news. Okay, my next piece of information is a history lesson. Here's a map of the routes from the southern plantations in the states of Georgia, Mississippi, and Alabama, Texas, Louisiana, and Arkansas, and Missouri. And the arrows point to the places of freedom that the Underground Railroad conductors led slaves to. One of the conductors was the most famous, Harriet Tubman. She was known as Moses. Now, this didn't happen all by itself. It took a large group of individuals to come together and plan the Underground Railroad. And I do have pictures of them. A lot of you know about the Black Lives Matter revolutionary movement today. That group is made up of a diverse ethnic group. People of all races are coming together to ensure that no more Black people die needlessly at the hands of police officers. The Black Lives Matters movement is very strong, and they are still marching today for the rights of people who are dying needlessly. Now, another group of people were doing this in the 1800s. They were called the abolitionists. Many of them did not believe in slavery. They used the Bible as their God. Basically, they felt slave owners and slave traders were in violation of God's law of love, and all men were created equal. One of the most famous abolitionists was Rankins. He was a Quaker. He was a religious person, and sometimes the African AME Church was involved in freeing slaves as well. Most Underground Railroad operators were ordinary people. They were farmers, they were business owners, and they were ministers. John Rankins was one of them. There were also wealthy people involved, such as, Garrett Smith. He was a millionaire who twice ran for president in 1841, and this is Mr. Smith. Smith purchased an entire family of slaves in Kentucky, and it's documented, and he purposely set them free. Okay, the most famous abolitionist is William Steele. In the movie Harriet, he is the man that records every person that is free coming through Philadelphia. Mr. Steele kept meticulous records. He took the names of all people, the date they arrived, and which plantation they came from. He also wrote stories about their lives of slaves and their journey to freedom. He worked closely with Harriet Tubman and was very impressed with her courage of evading capture. He was also a very educated person. He graduated from Lincoln University and subsequently practiced law in Philadelphia. His name is Robert George Steele, and he practiced law from 1861 to 1896. He also became a journalist and owned a print shop on Pine Avenue at 11th Street in Central Philadelphia. Here is the year of his birth, October 17th, 1821, and he died at about 80 years old, July 14th, 1902. A lot of these abolitionists were outspoken, just as the Black Lives Matter leaders are today, and the protesters. They're loud, they have demands, and the people who were abolitionists spoke loudly. They were often threatened with physical abuse, but none of them were harmed as far as I know. But they were loud. They often spoke in front of Congress to basically say slavery is wrong and you should not be doing that. And when I think of the movement, they really remind me of the people from that time period. There are a lot of people that the way these people behaved in the past and in the present.
So, Chelsea, are you with us? Can you talk about your project?
Yes, thank you, Jamie. So, hi, my name is Chelsea, and I'd like to talk to you all about an upcoming contest, book, and resource guide for teachers. It is called These Are the Hands. And what we want to do with this is tell the stories of different individuals and or bring awareness to social and environmental issues. So participants can create a 3D model of a hand or a 2D one, and they can also design a hand digitally, which you can see there. They also have the opportunity to write a story or poem that goes along with their hand. And with this, by using different colors, symbols, images, those who participate have the opportunity to express their ideas through art, which is very important. Now, with this idea, we want to make a book. So, in this book, we want to include the hands and stories of different influential individuals like Martin Luther King Jr., Harriet Tubman, and we'd also like to include the hands and stories of everyday heroes like doctors, teachers, farmers, and more. This has the potential to be a great resource for teachers as students will have the opportunity to learn about the experiences of different individuals with different backgrounds.
Excellent.
Thank you so
We're-
much,
Yeah,
Chelsea. That was,
excited.
I honestly really love the idea of that contest and like the whole book and the resource guide. I don't know, it's just so eye-catching. Like these are the hands and like the stories and everything. It just makes so much sense. And I'm really, really excited to see what you guys do with this and to see all the people that do it. Like we can see what they did and everything. So just thank you again. And also thank you to Jamie Washington, our Social Justice Commissioner, for bringing us valuable information and history each week. And Tatiana, thank you for sharing our dance and performance art contest. Really excited to see that as well. And Judith, thank you for sharing the No Idling Sign contest. Your art and Call It Out challenge is demonstrating how people can bring awareness to environmental problems on a daily basis. And thank you to Catherine for sharing Team 2 information and the petition brought to us by our friend and environmentalist, Sydney Pitcher. Thank you so much. Also, Darren, thank you for compiling and presenting data citizen science tools that we can all use to learn about pesticides, water, and air pollution, and for keeping us up to date with really, really important bills by California Representative Almir Suchi of the 66th District and California Representative Mike Levin from the 76th District in California. As well as Janice, thank you for teaching us all about watersheds, the Clean Water Act, and all things water. And speaking of water, thank you to our water experts, Dr. Amelie Catherine, and thank you to our board experts and consultants, Jay Koppenstein, Jim Wang, Julie Morisseau, Dr. Sarah Jean Royer, and John. Thank you so much to everyone, and I really hope you enjoyed this webinar.